All right, one last look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Friday morning from the Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center. A couple accidents to report, one at Augusta Highway and Pisgah Church Road, another one at North Brickyard and North Springs, and then Winslow Way and Clemson Road. Today, a little bit warmer, high of 93 with some sunshine, and a possible afternoon thunderstorm tomorrow. High of 91 with an isolated thunderstorm. Sunday is sunny with a high of 92. Traffic and weather, Wetzel's Automotive Traffic Center here on the early game. Nine o'clock on your Friday morning. Welcome in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Veltri along with you. Congratulations. You've made it to the end of the week. Well, you're at least a couple hours away from the weekend. Just got to get through this Friday. And it's the last the last weekend, Jack, without college football. Because this time next weekend, we'll be talking about week 0, Farmageddon in Ireland, and then we are off and rolling all the way through late January for the national championship.
Man, I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad we're finally at that point in the year where the slow times are finally starting to come to an end. You know, we're going to be talking about football, and, of course, more football here very soon, and I'm really looking forward to the real games beginning here soon.
And we're at the point right now, and you got preseason and stuff like that, where you're kind of latching on to whatever little bit of football you can get into. I don't know if you came across this last night. They had Buford and Milton, two powerhouse high school programs in Georgia, playing on ESPN, and I watched a good bit of that. Buford ended up winning. Milton's quarterback was really bad, threw a couple of really nasty interceptions in that game, and Buford won. But those two programs that are always thought of as being favorites to win the state championship there in Georgia. Do you know how much Buford's football stadium cost? Have you seen this, by the way?
Well, I was just about to say they're playing in a brand new stadium, and I don't know the cost of it, but I have seen pictures. Is it? Oh yeah, it was in it's $62 million. Yeah, I thought it was in the 60s.
$62 million for a high school football stadium. And look, you obviously are on the beat when it comes to local sports as well. You've been to your share of high school stadiums. I've been to plenty too. Never one that looked like that.
No, there are a lot in Columbia. Like River Bluff has a stadium. I played at River Bluff maybe like 2 times in high school when I was at Fort Mill, and it's a beautiful stadium. Kind of looks like that a little bit. Dorman was always super, super nice. Schools like that are very, very solid with their stadiums. But $62 million is a lot of money, and I can understand. Look, if you're good at football, you might as well put it towards a good stadium. So $62 million is a lot to think about, though, for high school.
Well, and being from Georgia, and I didn't grow up too far away from where Buford is, so I'm very familiar with how important that program is to that school and that community. It doesn't surprise me that they invested that much money into it. And when you look at the caliber of talent they produce out of there, and it's one of those like city schools, so they have the ability to pull talent from other areas without kind of being in the school district. It's a weird quirk that they have that, it does not surprise me in the least that they have what's probably the nicest high school football stadium in the state of Georgia now, and maybe one of the best in the country, that I think there are colleges that would love to have what they have.
And typically in Texas, you'll see a lot of this with these really, really so modern, so nice high school stadiums that just blow anything out of the water that you see here. Like, I've been to Texas a few times now for covering games and whatnot, and driving by on the highway and you see the interstate, I should say, and you see the schools off to the right and the left, and they got their huge football stadiums. You can just tell in the distance, like, yeah, oh man, that's a big stadium they got there.
I think it's Allen, which is where Kyler Murray went, and a host of other great talents. I think theirs is the one that's kind of the standard that legitimately looks like it could be not like a SEC level stadium, but like a high G5 type of stadium with the seating and the accommodations and all the bells and whistles and that stuff.
Oh yeah, and do we mention the fact that Buford won 20-13 over Milton?
Yeah, they won last night. When I turned it off, it was 20-7 after. And here's the thing, we get so caught up in what offers people have, and I think they said Milton's quarterback had committed to Ohio State. He was a 3-star, had previously played for St. Thomas Aquinas, which is another powerhouse program in the country. Guy couldn't throw the football to save his life. He was absolutely atrocious, and it was mainly a running quarterback, but he came from a highly touted program in St. Thomas Aquinas, which allowed him to be a 3-star, which he didn't look like a 3-star. So always be weary of where some of these guys come from, the type of offenses they play in, especially with quarterbacks, because they're not always exactly ready for the next level, and that guy didn't look like it.
No. But can I just say, we talk about needing something to keep us going till football season really begins. High school football season's here. So I know football in South Carolina, I think it starts, I want to say it starts next week with a lot of games. But, I mean, there's probably a few tonight or whatever. But Friday Night Lights are back, man. It's here now.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm excited for it. There's no hotter place on earth than being at a high school football game in the middle of August. So if you're going to go out to the game starting this weekend and stuff, bring your water, bring something to keep you in the shade and try and stay cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's these days are definitely hot out there, and it does look like a lot of schools, especially around here. Like I know Chapin, Irmo aren't starting until next week. I know a lot of the Fort Mill schools aren't starting until next week, but
right,
it's here, it's getting going.
Well, as that gets rolling, we're only a couple weeks away from South Carolina getting things rolling against Virginia Tech. We are Lenore Sellers days away from kickoff, and of course, he's the focal point of this team and somebody that we're going to hope to hear good things out of with the scrimmage coming up this weekend, which we'll dive into in just a second. But it is 9:00, and as always, got to kick things off with our Sandstorm Pick Me Up.
Time to get hyped. Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm, sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
It is time for your 9 a.m. Sandstorm Pick Me Up, brought to you by South Carolina's largest injury law firm, George Sink Injury Lawyers. If you've been hurt in the car or at work, call George Sink now at 803 all nines. If you'll give me a brief pause for a minute, Jack, here I do have to plug my headphones in because in the first 5 minutes of the show, I've managed to unplug them twice already.
Oh man, that's not good. First, yesterday you have your headphones all dangled and wired together, and then today you got to plug them in. So, but
all right, there we go. That's much better.
You all good now?
Yes, I can hear you now. I do that a lot. Good. It happens. It's live radio, but again, we're looking ahead to the scrimmage this upcoming weekend. Scrimmage number 2. Again, no availability. You guys aren't going to be out there. So you're going to have to go off your sources on the inside and what exactly happens. And I'm trying to think. What are goals? What are we things we are hoping to hear? And look, everything's going to have a positive spin to it. Let's just be honest here. No coach or insider is going to tell you, man, everybody sucked. We're missing tackles. Nobody could catch, all those kind of things. It's going to be a positive information coming out of it. What do you want to hear coming away from scrimmage number 2?
Is it crazy to say that I kind of want to hear when we talk with Shane Beamer next Tuesday? Is it kind of crazy to want to hear answers as far as who are you starting at these potential position battles that are really, really important? Like, have you found your kicker yet? Have you found your punter? Or is it going to be Mason Love pulling double duty? Or what are you doing on special teams there with returning and punt return? Stuff like that I think is kind of really critical to have an answer sooner rather than later. And obviously, it'll probably just be when we get the depth chart. But that would probably be one thing I'd like to hear, ideally. But we'll see if we hear something like that.
Yeah, obviously, look, health is the most important thing in the world. The last thing you want to hear is somebody, especially significant, getting injured this weekend, 2 weeks before the season starts. But I'm interested to see if the offense can keep up its no turnover thing. Because, again, they had no turnovers last week, which was great to hear. You can raise your eyebrow of, okay, what does that mean for the defense? But ideally, with the issues that the offense had on turnovers last year, I would like to hear that continue, obviously. And then what's pass rush looking like? I know Of course, we got Dylan Stewart. We know we have expect out of him. I don't remember hearing anything specific about the other guys, Brian Thomas Jr., or Gear, any of those other guys, and what exactly they were doing. So I hope to hear something positive out of that, especially if they're lining up against the ones or what are perceived to be the ones on the offensive line.
And I do wonder, kind of going in similar vein with that, with the defense, like, are those guys going to be playing a lot in this scrimmage? You know, that's something where Shane was saying the other day on Tuesday that in the first scrimmage, a lot of the starters or returning guys did not play a ton, and that it was more so about the young guys and getting those guys reps to kind of figure out, okay, because you have to fill out your entire roster, and you're trying to figure out, okay, who's going to be the 2 deep, the 3 deep on the depth chart, and you're trying to figure out those things. But also, you have a lot of starting position battles to figure out from guys you're replacing, because, again, you're only returning 4 starters on defense. So I would imagine a lot more guys are going to play this weekend in terms of starters, but again, it could be wrong. It's a 100-plus play scrimmage, so you would imagine these guys play definitely at least a few series.
Billy weighs in on the live stream and says, I just want to know if Faison's going to get cleared. You and all of us both, Billy.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is that, again, 16 days away now and still no answer. So we're a little over 2 weeks from game action, 2 weeks and 2 days. And, I don't know if something's coming. But, I wrote a story yesterday. Oscar Adaway feels, like he's preparing like he's going to be the starter, basically.
Sure.
That's how he's attacked this entire preseason camp. He hopes Rasul's able to play just like everyone does. But, of course, the longer this takes, the less of an answer, the less we feel like he's going to play. So
Sure.
You get your other guys out there. Hopefully those guys are coming along and they can be reliable when the season begins.
If I remember correctly, it seemed like what we heard about the running backs last week was positive. And again, we don't know exactly the personnel they were lining up against on defense. It did sound like there were a lot of what were perceived to be 2s on the defense at times last week going up against the ones on offense. But from what we heard about running backs, seemed positive, and we'll take that for whatever that's worth right now, I guess.
Yeah, again, it does seem positive in that, you have Adaway, who would probably be your lead back if the season started today. And again, that's assuming Rasul Faison is not cleared. You have the other 2 guys, which we've heard good things about. I feel like we haven't heard about a ton about Jawarn Howell. We've heard some really good things about Matt Fuller, which is what you want to hear as someone that, is going into his real freshman year, where he's already redshirted. Hopefully he gets to play more this year, have more carries. I'm interested to see what we get out of a guy like Isaiah Gustave this weekend. We really have not heard a ton about him this preseason, I feel like. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I really don't remember seeing anything or hearing anything about him. So that entire room, it's going to look a bit different if Rasul's not able to be out there. But then again, I think we've kind of come to anticipate that with the days coming down and still no answer.
And this is also the time of year where, again, we're hearing from Beamer, we're hearing from players this week, we'll hear from the coordinators and assistants coming up next week. You really have to pay attention about who they bring up on their own. Right. And yes, if you asked about Isaiah Gustave, he would answer a question about him. But when he's talking on his own or, is asked a general question about the running back group or wide receivers, it's the guys that he goes out of his way to mention. That's where you kind of put that note in your head of saying, okay, what have we got going on here? If he's, going out of his way to mention what that guy's doing individually or something along those lines to help us, again, kind of craft a picture of a team that, as we talked about this entire offseason, has a lot more questions than answers at this point.
Totally. And again, we're going to hopefully have more answers. We'll obviously have some stuff on the Gamecock Central, website and all that. But also, we'll hear from the coordinators for the first time since Media Day next week. And it'll be the first time they're in the press conference setting in, probably since spring. So it's been a bit. So hopefully we'll hear a lot from those guys. Again, we'll hear from Shane, the players, too. Shane does a pretty good job at telling you what's going on and stuff, although without really getting super, super specific. The players are kind of hit or miss. They really don't reveal a lot, but we'll see what the coordinators, want to tell us about how the scrimmage went.
Well, and Shula can maybe tell us if he's going to be in the box or on the field finally.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. It wouldn't shock me if he's on the field like he was last year, but I could also see the advantage of being up in the press box or up in the box.
So we'll hear from those guys coming up next week, and obviously that much closer to the season getting started 2 weeks from Sunday. On the other side, we both kind of went into a little bit of a rabbit hole yesterday with fan experiences that programs are selling now that I had no idea about. And this is worth diving into. And we'll see if we can come up with some ones at Willie B for South Carolina that people might be interested in. That's coming up next. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry along with you on your Friday here on The Game. Tyler Head here for our friends over at Twin Peaks. Fantasy football season is here. I was just talking in my group chat the other day. We've got our draft coming up next weekend, and unfortunately, all of us live in different states, so we can't exactly get together and have a draft party. But if we were all together, I would have us all going to Twin Peaks for our draft party, because now through September 4th, you can reserve your fantasy football draft party at Twin Peaks and score big with a draft kit loaded with everything you need, which includes a $50 kickback card for the commissioner and $5 kickback cards for every league guest. Plus, you can sip on local specials and enter for a shot at $1,000 in cash thanks to Molson Coors. Don't settle for basic. Draft at the lodge. You can book now at twinpeaksrestaurant.com/fantasy draft. And, of course, get down there for all the great football action this football season with TV as far as the eye can see, all that delicious food, and, of course, those 29-degree draft beers with our friends over at Twin Peaks. All right, welcome back in. It is the Extra Points. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher with you on your Friday here on the Game. Reminder, a week from today, it is the Game Summer Golf Classic sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly known as the Nest and the Vista. We'll be out at Charwood Golf Club this time next week, hanging out. Tee time will have been a week, 19 minutes ago. Tee time's at 9. Registration is at 7:30. As always, we're going to have onion sausages for breakfast, the mimosa bar provided by Saki's Wine and Spirits, and Firehouse Subs for lunch. Of course, going to have prizes to give away, and the golf gun makes its return, which I'm very, very excited about. If you want to take part, it's $400 for a team. Give Charwood a call at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up for the Game's Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms. Jack, great minds think alike, because you sent me something yesterday that I had just stumbled upon maybe an hour or so before that I was very intrigued to talk about today. Because, and this is per Trey Wallace, who covers college football for Outkick, he took a deep dive into, I guess, fan experiences is the best way to describe it, that programs around the country are now selling for means of, hey, producing more revenue. I didn't even fathom that these things were a thing or possible to even sell to people. But, hey, making money's making money, I guess.
And again, schools are coming up with creative ways to make money. Because, again, it's a business now. It's no longer the college athletics that you once knew. You have to pay players, and you have to invest money into your school and your athletic programs. And so what Oklahoma's doing, they have a variety of different tactics and different ways of trying to make money here. The main one that stuck out, obviously, is that at Oklahoma, fans could sit in post-game press conferences following the Michigan game, and they'll listen to coaches and players address reporters moments after the final whistle. You want to know how much it costs?
A lot.
$692.11. Why so specific?
That is for two people, by the way.
Yes, that is. Well, no, it's per person.
Well, it says one ticket grants access for two people, so
okay.
it would essentially be about $350 a person, though.
But still, that's crazy. That is insane. And it's not even the only one. You can there's a high five tunnel which costs $288.74. There's the Red Rocket Ride, which is almost $175. There's obviously ribbon board messages have been around forever. It feels like, with the electronic scoreboard. So that costs almost $150. There are photos on the field at the 50 before the game for $115. And then you have the Walk of Champions from inside the stadium at OU for $173.
I want to go back to the press conference thing, because that's what kind of started this, and that's the initial tweet. And he did write a story about this that goes into more detail about this stuff. But, and look, we've been in press conferences ourselves plenty of times. You're in a room. Yes, Coach Beamer, all the players are up there. But, and according to this, when you buy this, you're not getting to ask a question. You're not going to be granted the ability to talk to the players or coaches. You're just quite literally in the room with them after the game to hear them discuss whatever. And again, you can watch these things on YouTube, right? But you're paying for the opportunity to be 30 feet away from, and this is Oklahoma talking about Brent Venables when he's talking after the game, or John Mateer or Deion Burks or whoever. I don't know if it's worth it, man. I don't know if it's worth it.
It's funny you mention that, because I posted this whole tweet on the Insiders Forum on Gamecock Central yesterday, and I put it as the title of the post. Would you pay for something if South Carolina? Would you pay for something like this if South Carolina had it? And the overwhelming majority of people said no. It's just not worth the hefty price that you have to pay just to sit. Like you said, you're literally sitting there and listening to a press conference in person that, mind you, you can listen to on the way back. It's it'll be on radio, it'll be on YouTube. You can listen to it on other places.
Now, if you could guarantee me, if I'm just a fan here, if you could guarantee me that I get to ask one question in this thing, okay, that's a little more enticing. Now, for the journalist in the room, nobody wants that to happen. We don't need it to turn into, random question hour. Like, you guys have a job to do. You have serious questions asked. You only have a limited amount of time to do that. So I don't see that as being a feasible option. But if I was a fan and you could promise me I could talk to the coach or talk to one of my favorite players at some point during this, then okay, that's a little more enticing. But again, just standing in the room, no thank you.
Yeah, as someone who is a journalist and does attend these press conferences, this would kind of piss me off, honestly, if we have random fans in the room and they get to ask all these different questions. Because, again, we typically only get to ask one question, maybe two, during these post-game availabilities. Again, Beamer's on time. Like, the players don't have all day. Like, we would be sitting in there so much longer. We have deadlines to meet. So it's like, I get what Oklahoma's trying to do, and as long as it's them sitting in the room,
sure,
that's fine. It should not cost as much money as it does. Like,
no.
Let's not get that twisted. But I think there are other, I like the other options you have. Like, going to take a picture at the 50 before the game, I think that's kind of cool. The Walk of Champions stuff, fine. But, like, sitting in a press conference, it's not worth the money, number one. You see Gamecock fans are like, no, I would never pay for that. So, and they would want, like, something out of it, I think, a little bit more, like asking a question. Or I know some of them commented on the Insiders Forum talking about how they'd like to sit in Clemson's post-game press conference and ask Dabo questions and stuff after a Carolina game.
So it's not just Oklahoma. Ohio State also has a fan experience where you can stand in the south end zone before the Texas game and watch both teams warm up from the field between the 10 and 20-yard lines on the other side. You must leave the field when the band starts playing. So this doesn't even include a ticket, by the way. Like, you would quite literally be on the field, and that price point is $650. So you'd be on the field watching them warm up, and then if you don't have a ticket to the game, you have to leave.
It's just, I don't think it's worth it. Again, it's these experiences sound cool in nature, but then you get into the nitty-gritty details of it, like that stuff right there. It's just not as enticing, honestly, as it may sound.
Well, you're selling access, right? You're selling people on the ability to be closer to the action, be closer to the people. Because, look, let's be honest. You can get the same view of warm-ups sitting in the stands in one of the front rows before people are actually in their seats, the same as you can if you're staying down there on the field, right? You're just talking about a difference of maybe 20 or 30 feet. It doesn't guarantee, and again, it's talking about Ohio State, Ryan Day's not going to come over there and talk to you, right? No. Caleb Downs isn't going to come over there and dap you up or take a picture with you before the game. You're just standing closer to them when they're warming up.
Now, like, you'll get to take your little picture with the field in the background, I'm sure, and stuff, which is cool, but it's like, again, you could pay that much money probably for a seat in like a suite or something, like a club seat or something, like, and get all the perks of that compared to what you're being offered here. So I commend the schools that are doing stuff like this. I think it's cool because people will probably pay for it.
Sure.
But it's just the concept of it needs to be developed a little bit more to where it's like you're giving fans more out of it, which there's not much you can do about pregame right before a game. You get to stand on the field. That's fine, I guess. There's not much more you can do beyond that. But I think there are other things they could do to really give the access that would be super beneficial.
Now, one that is actually kind of interesting here, Oregon, before they play Southern Cal, you can pay $518.92. Again, we're really, really specific here for some reason.
Heavy pinching.
To get a chance to run out of the tunnel, and their description is, be a part of the team. Chase after the Harley motorcycle as it tears out of the tunnel and onto the field. Feel the roar of the stadium as you step out onto the turf with, I'm assuming this is team because it says more info below, but you actually would get to run out of the tunnel. I'm assuming behind all the players, you're not running out there, you know, with with Dan Lanning at the front. Like, you would have to trail the team at the very end. That is cool. Like, I would probably pay for something like that. Now we're really talking about something you're getting out of it, the rush of running out. Now, again, you'd have to go back to your seats pretty quickly. It's not like you're going to let you stand on the field the entire time. But, like, now we're talking about more of an experience I could get behind.
Like, how about being like an honorary captain or something that pays like $2,000 to do, like, something like that could be more feasible. And you need to have it controlled to where it's like you said, they run out behind the players and stuff onto the field. You got to get them off as soon as they're done, because that's something where game starts 5 minutes later.
I'm glad you posted this on the Insiders Forum, because let's kind of localize this. Let's see what experiences we could sell to fans here at South Carolina that are worthy of a decent price tag. That's coming up next. It is The Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Feltry along with you on your Friday here on The Game.
When it comes to HVAC replacements, AAA Heating and Air is the go-to name in the Midlands. With guaranteed financing, no payments or interest for 12 months, and a 15-year parts and labor warranty, it's no wonder they're the best in the business. But wait, there's so much more. Did you know AAA Heating and Air also offers incredible deals for repairs? That's right. If your system is broken and you're worried about the cost, they've got you covered. AAA offers up to 12-month payment plans with no credit check for all repairs. Yep, homeowners just need a valid bank account and you're all set. That's all you need. So don't sweat it. Call AAA Heating and Air today to take advantage of these amazing deals that they offer. Your comfort is just a call away.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you on your Friday here on The Game. Reminder, if you've not heard, starting Monday, you'll be able to listen to us out in Charleston on WIWF 96.9 HD3. So you can listen to us here locally in Columbia, towards the upstate in Florence, or in the mid, or the PD region in Florence, as well as in Myrtle Beach and Charleston now. So we're pretty much almost statewide. And you can also listen to us, as always, on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming on the Game TV. Ty, before we get into experiences we can sell here at Carolina, Ty brings up an interesting point on the text line. He says, I think you're overrating the reporters' questions because most of them say the exact same question 100 different ways. I would love to hear what a fan question would be because it's outside the box thinking, and I think fans should get to have asked a question at least once. And you can answer this question better than me, but I did reply to Ty on the text line. And, you know, there is this understood relationship between coaches and media members and those that are participating in these press conferences on where to ask questions, what's okay to ask, what's not okay to ask. And I doubt coaches would ever sign off on somebody being a part of those press conferences that could ask something that's really out of left field. Like, all right, let's go back to last year against Ole Miss, right, where you had the very questionable special teams trick play on the fake punt early in the game that backfired, and Carolina proceeded to lose that game pretty handily. You could have a fan that come in that game and say, Coach, what the hell were you thinking, man? Why would you do something that dumb in that situation? They're not going to sign up on that. Like, they know with media that's there every single day and every single week, you can ask those kind of questions in a way that's not going to set them off and cause you to potentially lose your access at some point. You know what I mean?
A more professional way to there is a, it's not even professional, it's just, which it's supposed to be, but there's just a better manner to ask questions in and get answers out of coaches. Because if you ask a question like that, you're just gonna, like, the way it's phrased there with the what like, why the hell would you do that, what are you doing, you're so dumb, this and that. You're going to get a provoked coach who does not want to answer the question, or he'll be, fight fire with fire and come right back at you. It's you got to know how to ask these questions, and that's why media members do what they do.
Or in a situation like a couple years ago where the defense was struggling, you could get a fan and say, "Coach, you going to fire Clayton White or what?" You know what I mean? Like, those kind of things don't fly there. And again, there's this understood relationship between media and coaches and players as well on, like, hey, you got a job to do, I got a job to do. We're going to make sure we balance this, and nobody's going to come off, looking bad here. So I don't know if coaches would ever sign off on fans getting that much access in a situation like we got Carolina calls and those kind of things where you can obviously ask coach questions, but post-game pressers are very different.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, I mean, that's what Carolina calls us for. And also, it's free.
Yes,
so
it is.
Unless you want to go eat at Backstreet's Grill.
You can go to Backstreet's Grill and ask Coach Beamer a question every single week.
And honestly, the questions that he's asked there, they're not that ridiculous. Like, some of them are actually, like, really insightful questions that he gets. Some of them are like, when are you going to play Nick Harbor and all this and that? When are you going to throw the deep ball to him? Like, okay, cool. But some of them are actually, like, relatively good questions that get asked. So I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world to have something like that. And I disagree with the fact of what Ty said about the media members ask the same questions basically over and over again. That's not always the case. There may be a time or two where a guy gets asked about a specific player or something, and then the question kind of sounds the same coming off the tongue. But for the most part, the questions are all very, very different. So, and they cover a lot of things. But I just don't see that being something – at South Carolina's especially, I don't see South Carolina signing off on something like that. Just because, again, you got to respect people's time. And,
sure.
We don't have all night to be asking questions when it's, 12 in the morning and we're just getting going with the press conference.
So let's talk about some fan experiences that we could sell here at South Carolina. And Jake on Twitter weighed in and said that they do sell the option of being on the field for 2001 as part of an auction every single week, which that's cool and obviously a unique thing to get to experience that entrance. I don't believe that includes running out with the team in the tunnel, though, which I feel like that's something, much like the Oregon thing, that I could say, yeah, if you could promise me I'm going to run out with the team to 2001 and all that kind of stuff, I'd pay for that. I don't know how much. It'd probably be several $100s, but you're not running out with Beamer at the front or something along those lines, but if you could run out there with the team, I'd pay for that.
Here's a few things I've thought about with this. on the subject of running out with the team, I think that is definitely a cool idea. Have the fans run out after and all that. I also think because the way I'm thinking about it in my head, so the band kind of they create like a path for the players to run out, right?
Yeah.
And you have photographers and stuff. What if you had a little area where the fans get to stand and they get to watch the team run out, but like they're at like the 25-yard line or whatever, wherever the team really like comes out.
It's not something where you're like standing on the sidelines, little ways away from, like you're right there and
you can see it all.
They're running right in front of you, at midfield or something like that. Like that's kind of a next step that's possible. Beth weighs in and says she'd pay for being a part of Gamecock Walk with Coach Beamer. I feel like that's something that's very feasible. And again, you'd be walking amongst the players, and again, the people on the sides watching Gamecock Walk are not going to know you from anybody else, so they're just assuming you're probably a staff member or something like that. But if you could get to do Gamecock Walk next to Coach Beamer, that'd be pretty cool. I think that's something that could be very feasible. Now, again, is he going to be talking to you the whole time? Probably not, because he's talking to fans, talking to players and coaches and stuff like that. So you may not get the exact one-on-one you want, but that'd still be a neat thing to do.
But to be there, I think would be cool for the fans. Now, the one thing I actually do think, and they got to do something about the little cockaboose train that comes on the field. They got to do something better with that, because I think it's kind of lame compared to the cage that Cocky shakes and comes out.
A lot of people are very passionate about that change in the negative.
So I think the one way you could probably make it a little bit better, you have fans pay for the access to go on the train and ride onto the field. I don't know if that's feasible necessarily, because I don't know necessarily what material is the train made out of. Is it able to hold a few people? Can you put some people on the top? You got to think about all these safety things too. Probably got to sign waivers and all that. But I think just straight off the rip, I think it's actually not a terrible idea.
Well, why not pay to drive the thing, right? I mean, again, you would have to, make sure they're capable of doing it, background checks, those kind of things. But I'd pay to drive the cockaboose out on the field, to be honest with you.
Or honestly, I don't know if South Carolina would ever do that, but have I don't know, like a family or something, like a little kid, pay for, your family to go sit in the front seat as the train goes out, or again, stand on the roof of the train or something, I think that would be something to kind of elevate that experience a little bit. I don't know if people would pay for it, but I think it's a lot better than some of the other things that Ohio State's doing, I think, or even with Oklahoma. I think this could be something that would be a little bit better.
And we're talking about the things that Ohio State and Oklahoma and programs like this are doing, but we know people are going to pay for it. We know there's going to be somebody, it's for the Michigan game, that's going to pay $700 for them and a buddy to go stand in the press conference room and hear from Brent Venables talking about a win or a loss, we don't know, after the game. And you can take your pictures and take your selfies and all that kind of stuff and say, hey, look, I was in the vicinity of Coach Venables after the game. Somebody's going to pay for this, and that's why they're doing it.
I don't agree with it. And even another thing that would be pretty cool, before the team even runs down the field, and I don't know if they do. I don't think they do this at all at South Carolina, but you have the 2001 club or I think it's the 2001 club where you have the view with the glass window into where the team walks out before running onto the field. I think having something I think the Cowboys do this, or some NFL teams do this, where you can high five the players as they go out onto the field. I think that could be something that would be an easy sell for a lot of people.
So Jake also tells me you do actually have the option to win the auction to be on the Cocky train as well. So that does sound like something that is already possible. I don't think you get to drive it, which would be my next step, but it sounds like you can actually be on the train as it's coming out on the field too.
There are a lot of good options, I think, in terms of doing this. I think something I saw South Carolina did in the spring, and I don't know how much it cost or whatever, but you could watch a quarter from the field for the spring game. Now, I don't know if this is something you could regulate during the season. You got photographers on the field, you have cheerleaders, all these different people. But for a spring game, I think it's actually not a bad idea to where you can watch on the field. Maybe do it for a smaller game, but I don't know.
And spring games are a lot more relaxed. I mean, for God's sakes, Elijah called a play in the spring game. You know what I mean? We can open that up a whole lot more.
I think something. Oh, speaking of that, I think that honestly opens the floodgates for fans. Because don't fans dream of getting to call a play during the game?
It would have to be in the spring game. You couldn't do that during the regular season.
That's what I'm saying. Not during the actual game, but a spring game or even practice.
Yeah.
I think that'd be cool.
Some ideas out there. We'll see if any of those come to fruition. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 1 of the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Beltry with you on your Friday here on The Game.
That ball is melted to left, and it's gone! on. There's a grand slam for Joe Giulietti. 8-0 Irmo, South Carolina. And you can almost feel it coming.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Jack Belcher along with you, wrapping up hour number 1 here on your Friday. That was the call yesterday on ESPN. Joe Giulietti for Irmo's Little League crushes a grand slam to help Irmo dominate, destroy, rout, whatever word you want to use to describe it. The Massachusetts Little League team in the opening game of Little League World Series, 13-0 in a run rule. I had a thing to record yesterday after I got off the air at 3, and I came in here and popped my head in talking to Jay and Julia Westerman from WIS, and I looked up, and Irmo was leading 2-0 at that point. I'm like, okay, cool, good start. By the time I got home, it was 11-0.
Just shutout win in the United States bracket game, opening game since 2015. So, look, this team came in hot. Obviously, they were off the heels of they were down, I think 4-0 in the bottom of the sixth.
They looked dead to rights in that game to get out of the Southeastern final.
Yeah, and they scored 5 runs at the bottom of the 6th, and it was a walk-off 3-run double by Brady Westbrooks to help them advance. And just crazy to see the run they've been on over the last few weeks here. And then obviously coming into Williamsport, all that momentum has really kicked into gear as they really had a nice performance yesterday to get the ball rolling. By
the way, if you were looking for competitive games, the first 2 yesterday were not very competitive. Japan, they no-hit the team that they were playing.
They did.
It was 11-0 the final score on that one. It was on when we were doing the show, and I was kind of paying attention to it as much as I could. But, those first 2 games yesterday were pretty lopsided.
Now, did you see I can't remember what team he was from. I think it was not Mexico, but one of the other country teams. Kid was throwing 82 miles an hour.
At 12, 13 years old?
And the way ESPN does it is they'll show what the velocity is for the kid, but also what the velocity would be in the MLB.
Yeah.
It's at 107 miles an hour, which I think the fastest pitch ever recorded is 106.
Yeah.
So that's pretty crazy.
Well, that kid's going to have Tommy John surgery by the time he's, 15?
That's what they all say, and that's pretty cool though. I don't remember a kid ever throwing 82 miles an hour when I was that young, but that changed.
That really kind of speaks volumes to the way baseball is going as of right now, because it's all about velocity. And I heard John Smoltz talking the other day. He was doing a sit down with 680 The Fan in Atlanta, and he talked about that's all that people are coaching now is just velocity, and that's why arms aren't lasting anymore. And again, guys are getting TJ surgery, at 17 years old to be precautionary, right? Because it's going to happen at some point, when that used to be like a career ender for people in Major League Baseball for a while, and now it's just done out of necessity almost. And again, when you look at these lower ranks of baseball and see how fast these guys are throwing, you can see the effect it's having.
No, exactly. Again, guys are getting Tommy John right and left. I think the Yankees this year have 2 of their better pitchers that have undergone Tommy John surgery this year. And it's a common thing for now with guys having multiple Tommy Johns throughout their careers. It's insane, and then they come back throwing harder and better. It's crazy.
I always stand by the fact that I don't believe the human body was meant to throw objects that fast for that long of a period of time, and it's very clear that the bodies are not holding up and doing that. We've gotten better with the science, and we've gotten better with nutrition and conditioning and strength and all that kind of stuff, but still, it's still not enough to combat the body wearing down on you faster than ever, it seems like.
No, definitely not. But with the Southeast, with Irmo, so they advance to play. They'll play on the 18th. So what would that be? On Monday?
Monday? Yeah, it's Monday.
Yeah. So they would play the winner of Northwest versus the Mountain region. I don't know where those teams are from. I saw Mountain beat the Great Lakes 16-1 on the 13th. So that would have been 2 days ago. But yeah, so Irmo is now, let's see, how many wins away are they? They are, I believe now, let's see, 4 wins away from winning the Little League World Series. That's kind of crazy to think about, honestly.
That's awesome. And again, couldn't have gotten off to a better start than yesterday. And, gotta make it through the American pool and get yourself to what the championships are next weekend, I guess.
Yeah.
And, hopefully we got them to cheer for the next little over a week.
Yeah, good start for those kids. And it is pretty cool hearing these broadcasts like Carl Ravitch saying, Irmo, South Carolina. That's pretty sick, to be honest.
Pretty darn cool. And again, good luck to those guys with their next game coming up here in a couple days. And you can catch all that coverage on ESPN. Jack, we'll see you back here in about 2 more hours as we hop in together for the halftime show.
I'm looking forward to it, my man. I'll see you then.
That'll do it for hour number 1 of the Extra Point. Coming up in hour number 2, we'll run the numbers as we do each and every Friday here on The Game. Well, welcome back in. It is The Extra Point. It's our head along with you. Joe Machika hanging out with me as he does each and every Friday here on the game. How are you doing, Joe?
Doing well, Tyler. Thanks for having me, as always. Good to be back in studio. Yeah, it's Friday, man.
Well, we're that much closer, man.
I know. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Camp's getting really hard for the guys, I'm sure. You know, guys are getting bumps, bruises, getting worn out. That's where, you got to dig deeper. That's why, it's Division I football. It's big boy football. It's the SEC. It's that close, Tyler.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And we'll have another scrimmage coming up tomorrow, and hopefully hear good things about that. And then, 2 weeks from Sunday, it all goes down in Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. And it still feels weird kicking on a Sunday a little bit. Gonna get used to that within this next couple weeks. Also gives you a chance, again, as we've talked about, exhaustingly throughout July and whatnot, it gives you a chance to watch the whole Saturday slate. So it is kind of nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to that. Next week we get some Week 0 action, Farmageddon over in Ireland. Looking forward to that. Certainly as well. And then, we're off and running for the next, 4 or 5 months until the national championship in the end of January.
Yeah, the greatest show on grass and turf. The SEC and college football is back in action. It's the best time of year, Tyler. Leaves start to change.
Yep.
Chili starts to be bearable.
Listen, looking forward to that, certainly. Usually, this is when we're joined by our guy, Corey Parsons of the BetMGM Network. As we run the numbers, Corey was not available today, so we'll still take a look at some numbers as we get closer to the start of football season. And I wanted to kind of focus today on South Carolina's win total and college football playoff odds. Because when you look at where South Carolina was in the preseason poll earlier on this week, where they come in at number 13, I think the natural inclination is to think like, oh, well, their win total expectations must be around, 9, 10, something like that. Not quite the case. It's sitting at 7.5 right now, and you can, on BetMGM, you can take over or under on that. But I think that illustrates, A, how tough the SEC is, and B, how back and forth people are with this team, right?
Yeah.
We talked about they obviously did well enough to warrant the 13th place ranking, but a lot of people had them unranked. A lot of people, Brett McMurphy, Reese Davis, being the most notable ones of that, didn't think they were worthy of even being in the top 25. And again, I'm not taking their side on this, but I can understand how they come to that conclusion given what was lost from a year ago.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. Considering what you lost last year, this team going into this year is, there's a little bit more of an unknown factor. I mean, last year certainly had that with your quarterback. Didn't know exactly how he was going to do. Now that your quarterback is all solid, there's a lot of other positions around him. That brings up the question of what is exactly going to happen. I think 7.5 wins, Tyler, is not I would say a success. I would say for this team and this program right now. I think their sights are set higher, and the goal is to make the college football playoff. And I don't think you do that with 7 wins and then 8 wins.
Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. So it's the expectations, like you said, Tyler, scattered all over the place, and we'll have to see. I think that's kind of the magic about what's lying in Columbia right now.
Well, and we saw last year being 9-3 in the SEC was good enough to get you close, right? And it really depends on who those 3 losses are against, how you lose those games, how many quality wins you have. So you can't exactly take every year and say, well, if you go 9-3, you're not going to make it, because I don't think that's the case, right? There's certain circumstances where if you go 9-3 without, and obviously like Georgia, if they would have lost to Tech last year and still won the SEC championship game, they would have been 9-3, but they would have earned the automatic berth via the SEC championship game there. But outside of that, I think there's still a path to get in as an at-large team at 9-3, but you have to have a certain amount of wins against really good teams. Your losses better be to good teams, and they better be close. Again, if you lose that game to Ole Miss by a point as opposed to 3 touchdowns, I'm not saying that puts you in, but the conversation becomes different, right?
Right. Yeah, Tyler, I was going to, emphasize that last point. If you lose to Ole Miss by 1 point and say 2 overtimes, right, like that's a quality loss, if you will. And I don't know if there's such things as a quality loss, and I'm sure there's coaches listening to this like, there's no such thing as
to a coach. There's no quality losses,
right.
But we know there's such thing as quality losses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm also kind of a believer too in, undefeated teams, right? You kind of need to get a loss to know what it feels like to lose. Sure. and to learn from mistakes and to build off of that. So, I think there's elite teams that can go undefeated, like the Dawn Staley women's basketball team, national champs. That team was elite enough to go undefeated. But, I don't know. I think in this day and age, too, you kind of have to at least lose 1 game. But it's just part of the process, Tyler. You learn a lot.
It is interesting that you bring that up because, and look, Ohio State in a 14 playoff wouldn't have been in last year via that second loss to Michigan. they had already had the one loss to Oregon, and that was weird where the clock ran out, and they still lost the game, but it was like, man, if they had an opportunity, they probably could have won that game. So maybe that loss didn't affect them as much as the Michigan game where they just got embarrassed by a much worse team than them, and that woke up the monster in them, and they proceeded to run roughshod through everybody over the course of that next month. So you're right, losing that game, especially as a high-end team that has national championship aspirations, that can almost motivate you more, right? Because you realize, oh, we're vulnerable. Oh, we're not perfect. We have deficiencies, and you can lock in harder and obviously go on the run like Ohio State went on. And I do wonder, because they obviously, and again, I'm glad we've restructured things where the seating's different now. They ran into Oregon in the Rose Bowl and blew Oregon's doors off. That's an Oregon team that was undefeated up to that point. 13-0, won the Big Ten championship, and they've been tested like against Ohio State, but they've not suffered that loss yet. And I would be interested to see if Oregon was able to play another game after that against a high-quality team, how good they would have looked. To be like, oh, hey, we got humbled on a national stage. We got to go out there and prove ourselves the next time. And who knows what would happen. Again, it's hypothetical at this situation, but sometimes having that loss to a really good team can kind of, snap you back to reality like, oh, hey, we can't be all high and mighty with our head in the clouds. We got to focus here.
Yeah, most definitely. I think Ohio State's a perfect example, Tyler, because you saw the emotion after that Michigan game. They didn't think that was going to happen at all. And the whole planting the flag thing and everything that went on after that game, you saw all the emotion coming out, and they certainly didn't expect it, right? So the gut check was needed, and you saw how great that team looked in the college football playoff. Like you said in the Rose Bowl, beat Oregon pretty bad, ran them out the gym. And I agree. I think Oregon would have come back a better team. And, not to add to the SEC here, but, I mean, the SEC plays a tougher regular season schedule. It really is any given Saturday in the SEC, it feels like. And the Big Ten's getting deeper and whatnot, too. Like, IU's becoming a better team and whatnot. But, again, it's just one of those things where, the regular season seems to be tougher in the SEC, and you tend to lose a couple more games, which is why you see, or as of late, I think, why you've seen more postseason success for the SEC. So it's just one of those things where, and again, the Big Ten, they just have to, increase, competition with like Minnesota, and the mid-level teams got to get better. We'll see.
So let's kind of loop this back to South Carolina again, who BetMGM has their win total set at 7.5. You can take the over, you can take the under on that, which I think is fair, right?
Yeah.
Again, with the unknowns on this team, and look, if Sellers and Stewart weren't on this team, the number would be a whole lot lower, right? We wouldn't be ranked in the top 25. Those guys are doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. And as we saw last year, when you have a special quarterback, they have the ability to help you in situations where a normal quarterback can't, and can elevate you to win some games that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have won. And look, the defense obviously played a big role in that game as well. But if you have a B- or a C+ quarterback playing against Clemson, you probably don't win that game. Sellers had to quite literally work his magic in the waning minutes with that touchdown run that put them over the top. And then, again, the game was sealed with Demetrius Knight there with the interception there after that. But having that quarterback gives you that opportunity. And that's where a lot of the belief in this team comes from a guy that's being talked about in the Heisman Trophy conversation, first-round draft pick, all those kind of things. And, again, I lean towards them being better than 7.5 as far as the win total. I think around 8 or 9 as of right now. And, again, when games start and we see them against Virginia Tech, that can change wildly. Right? I could be like, oh, wow, this team looks way better than I thought. Or, ooh, they look a whole lot worse than I thought. And I'll adjust them. But as of right now, I believe you're kind of in that 8, 9-ish win range, which would have me taking the over of the 7.5. But again, it's not easy. And you're going to have to go through a gauntlet, especially in the back half of the season, just to get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. I think this team is again, as we talked about a little bit earlier, like there are a lot of people that aren't talking about this team because there are certain position groups that maybe or there's a bunch of question marks at it, say less. I'm talking about like the secondary group. I feel like that's a group that hasn't gotten much shine. There aren't too many veterans. You lose Nicky Manwari. It's like, what is it going to look like? You've got the Kilgore brothers back there. It's a group that Torian Gray is confident in, and Torian Gray has coached a lot of NFL talent these last couple of years. You talk about Cam Smith, guys. Darius Rush was in the NFL. So there's a long history of defensive backs at South Carolina, and for Torian Gray to be really confident in his room as he is, I think that should give fan base and also just nationally some confidence in this group and this defense. I think at line the front seven needs to be good. Linebacker, you've got, two freaks playing in Fred Johnson and Sean Murphy. So that should excite you. Again, you've got your two defensive ends, ready to go. Defensive tackle, just need to have some depth. So I don't know. I think the positions of question, if you, dive a little deeper and kind of look at the roster and look who's been here, it shouldn't bring up that much worry or that much, we really don't know what's going to happen. But, I mean, there's a lot of leading elements here, too, when you have 16.
Now, on the other end, because you have a win total set at 7.5, this is all, again, per BetMGM. Carolina's odds to make the college football playoff are only 4-1, though.
Right.
Which, again, that's not like the best odds overall, but that's not terrible, all things considered. And when you line up that with a 7.5 win total, it's like, it doesn't make sense, but it does make sense because, again, it's kind of the unknown and the yin and the yang of how people look at this team.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Tyler. I saw that in the notes, and I was like, I'm gonna let him bring this up because, it's a really interesting look at it because 4-1 seems a lot closer than 7.5 wins.
Sure.
Right. So I think if you're gonna look to place any bets on this South Carolina team, 4-1 to make the college football playoff, you saw right where they were, last season, right on the cusp of it. And so, considering who they're returning, a lot of the offensive line came back. They're returning a lot of younger guys from last year's team, that are expected to step up and be players. So there's a lot of, experience coming from last year and a lot of things that were learned.
And I said this earlier on this week. We look at those first 5 games, which are against all teams that are unranked. And, of course, one of those is SC State, which is an FCS team. Getting off to a good start, being no worse than 4-1 is vitally important. Because, again, you're going to go through a gauntlet in your last 7 games, 6 of those being against ranked teams. All your FB Power 4 opponents are ranked at that point in time. And again, you're not going to win all those games. More likely than not, you're going to have a couple losses in there. But making your wiggle room as big as possible is helpful. If you can get through 5-0 in the first 5 weeks, then all right, let's say you did lose to LSU. Let's say you did lose on the road to Ole Miss. Still, you can go 10-2. And if you went 10-2 with that schedule, regardless of how those 2 losses look, you're in my opinion. Like, no question about it, because you'd have wins against Alabama. You'd have a win against Clemson. Again, this is all easier said than done. You still got to play these games. But the way that I kind of look at that, it's like, man, that first month of the season is so important to not have any blemishes to help you out for that back half of the season.
Yeah, Tyler, I couldn't agree more because, again, the schedule is set up. The front half is, loaded to where if you can, again, go perfect, it's set up the back half, as long as Shane Beamer's been here, he's had momentum in the end of the year.
They play their best football at the end of the year, which is great.
Exactly. There is so much momentum for this team and this program rolling on through the end of the year. So, again, I agree with you, Tyler. If you can get through those first 5 couple weeks unscathed, like, you should be dancing and have a pretty good sense of momentum and national like people noticing you, everybody pretty high up in the polls, I would assume too. Just a lot of momentum and attention. That was the word I was looking for. A lot of attention on you going into one of the biggest stretches of football in this program's history, arguably.
So there's your running the numbers this week. Again, we'll get Corey Parson coming back with us next week, as we'll have some actual games to finally talk about and lines to look out for that, which we've been waiting for over the course of the past 8-9 months at this point. And it's almost here, Joe. It's almost here.
Nothing like week 0 lines, Tyler. It's going to have some funky matchups, funky lines ready to go. I
cannot wait. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Again, we'll talk to Corey coming up again next week. Michigan, anxiously waiting, maybe anxiously, I don't know. The NCAA is going to announce their sanctions coming up today at noon. We'll dive into what those could be coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. It's our head, Joe Machica, hanging out on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. It's our head Joe Machika hanging out with you on your Friday here on the game. Reminder, starting Monday, you'll be able to listen to us in Charleston as well on WIWF 96.9 HD3. You can listen to us here in Columbia, Myrtle Beach, Florence, and Charleston now. We are pretty much statewide at that point. You can't escape us, Joe. We're everywhere.
It's awesome, Tyler. I sent a text down to my guys down in Charleston, and they were fired up, ready to get everything rolling down there. And, no escaping us on Friday mornings, getting your weekend ready for you.
That's right. And, again, with football right around the corner, it's going to be a lot of fun as we're going to be able to hear statewide. Of course, you can always listen to us on the Game app, as well as streaming on the Game TV radio on YouTube, sponsored by Shepherd Glass and powered by Integrated Media. So the Connor Stallions thing feels like that was like 10 years ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, so much has happened in the world of college sports since then. Jim Harbaugh's not even in Michigan anymore. Right. It's one of those things that I found myself forgetting about until I see another headline. I'm like, oh, yeah, that happened, and that was only 2 years ago.
Yeah, only 2 years ago. College football news travels fast, and it also makes you feel like, again, Tyler, like you said, was 3, 4, 5 years ago. It feels like forever ago. Jim Harbaugh, like you said, is in the NFL. Wonder why he went to the NFL, probably because of all this, and he also got his national championship. So
look, he's got no reason to come back to college football.
Right. It was just such a convenient time to go, take a job in Los Angeles with the Chargers and, just escape the cold, brutal winters of Michigan after, taking them to a national championship. Just oddly convenient timing for Jim Harbaugh to leave Michigan. But yeah, Tyler, it's been a saga, man, with this whole sign stealing thing.
So the NCAA today will announce the sanctions against Michigan after their long investigation. I think it shows you how long the NCAA can take on things, and I get it. There's a lot of information to process and stuff like that, but I think we were expecting this to come out a long time ago. And now we are on the cusp of the 2025 season starting and going to find the official announcement coming up today. Now, if you remember, back in May, Michigan self-imposed a 2-game suspension of Sharon Moore, who obviously was on the staff at that point in time, had deleted some text messages when it came to the investigation. So he is willingly sitting out games number 3 and 4. So he'll coach against New Mexico in week 1. He'll coach against his alma mater in Oklahoma, and then he'll sit out Central Michigan and Nebraska in weeks 3 and 4.
It's the most Michigan, I guess, made-up kind of suspension ever. Like, if you're going to do a 2-game suspension, you would think it would be logically at the beginning of the season, right?
Yeah. Well, and we looked at it from this angle back in May, was like, how much does that piss you off for Nebraska? Like, Michigan thinks so little of you. They don't even think they need their head coach to beat you. In Lincoln, no less. That's a road game in Lincoln. And we don't need Coach Moore for that. We got it.
Yeah, unbelievable. So very, very Michigan. And I don't know, Tyler. I think the news today is going to kind of be similar to that, right? Like, I think they're going to be given a Michigan penalty and, a slap on the wrist, if you will, because, again, it has been drawn out for so long to where it's like, is anything really going to happen to this? Like, well, and it is a pretty deep investigation, although.
And Pete Thamel was on the Pat McAfee show yesterday, and he basically said the real question is, are they going to add more to Sharon Moore's suspension? Which the reason why, same thing with Michigan, and you had, people forget this, you had the recruiting violations that plagued the 2023 season for Michigan that had Harbaugh sitting out the first 3 games of the regular season in that one. Then they did a self-imposed thing on the back 3 games of that regular season. So that whole season was just rife with suspensions or self-imposed suspensions and stuff like that. So you self-impose these things with the hope that when the investigation is finally done, the NCAA will look at what you've imposed on yourself and say, all right, that's probably a fitting punishment for what we were going to do. That's fine. The question becomes okay, does the NCAA feel the need to add more games to it? 1, 2, however many, and say, Sharon Moore, because of what you've done in your involvement, we're penalizing you and you can't coach in 2 more games. Now you're gone for the first month of the season or something along those lines. That's really the extent of how extreme this can get. It's very clear, and the NCAA did say a couple years ago, they're not in the business of taking down banners anymore, right? Which, we've always thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
You just have to pretend like this thing didn't exist, and I get it. You achieved the championship through illegal means or whatever, but, we all saw it happen. We all witnessed it. You can't give us the Men in Black mind eraser and say, well, You don't remember who won the 2023 national championship? Yes, I do. I watched it happen. There was a parade. Like, it's real. Okay, did they do some shady things to get there? Sure. What program isn't doing shady things? They just got caught, right? Like, I'm glad we're not going through the silly act of pretending things didn't happen.
Yeah, no, and good move there by the NCAA, because whenever you do, just kind of go back and take things away, you look silly in the end of it, and it's like, do we really don't care? It kind of happened, and it's over. Like, Michigan fans are still celebrating it. Believe me, every time I'm back in South Bend and bump into one of my friends who is a Michigan fan, I'm easily reminded of the national championship that still exists.
It did make joking with Michigan fans very easy at that point in time. And really, because again, a lot of the things coaches get in trouble for are things like the recruiting violations and, those kind of things. This story was so crazy. Mm-hmm. And doing this job as it was unfolding, because it was it was mid to late October, I think, when it came out. I think they were playing Wisconsin that weekend. It's like, hey, this coach has been stealing signs and, going undercover on sidelines and sending out people to all these games. It was nuts, right? And I think we were hoping for something big in terms of, man, really lay the hammer down and take away scholarships. There may be a monetary fine and really set the Michigan program back years for doing this. That's not going to happen at the end of the day. Again, they'll fine them probably, may add another game to run more, but for all intents and purposes, they really are kind of going to get it off clean.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, considering Michigan running out of money, how much money they're paying Bryce Underwood, I don't think Michigan's running out of money anytime soon.
Nah.
So, I don't know. The whole sign stealing thing, it just reeks of Jim Harbaugh for some reason. Like, just a task that Jim Harbaugh gave to Connor Stellick, and then he just ran with it. And in true Harbaugh fashion, it got as deep as it did. And
sure.
I mean, you look at sign stealing in football, the extents that he went, it's like, that's crazy. But you see it in baseball. In baseball, it's a little bit more accepted. Guys are tipping pitches and stuff like that, and you're on second base, and why not peek into the goal?
Well, and that's the thing with college football, too. It's one thing if you're standing on the other sideline and like, hey, I can figure out their hand signals or whatever they're motioning, their cards, and figure out plays that way. It's when you go to the other level of sending people to games to record things happening that you couldn't have picked up on the TV copy or the All-22 and those kind of things. Again, I believe it's him, right? Standing on the sidelines of a Central Michigan game with recording glasses on, that's what those looked like, to steal the signs of an upcoming opponent. That's when it goes to a next level, and that's where the story just got ridiculous. And I was very disappointed, as I tend to be, unfortunately, with the untold documentaries on Netflix, because they build them up so much.
I'm with you.
Like the Swamp Kings thing with Florida that came out last year. The same thing with Connor Stallions, and then it's just a letdown because you feel like there's so much more they can dive into that they just don't. Yeah,
as is the nature with those series, documentaries, things like you're gonna have a bunch of hits right away, and then as they keep growing, you're gonna get a couple misses. I'm with you. I was disappointed, with the sign stealer and also Swamp Kings. I thought they did Manti Te'o good, like that. That one was pretty decent. That was
pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Johnny Manziel's. That was fine.
I agree.
But again, we weren't looking for any new information with those. We were just kind of wanting to be told the story. From their perspective, right? Like with Swamp Kings, hell yeah, I wanted to know what Urban Meyer thought about Aaron Hernandez, wasn't included.
Yeah.
Cam Newton stealing the laptop wasn't included.
True.
Again, there's a lot of things that got left out of the Connor Stallions thing, too, that I'm like, if you really want to be a documentary, you got to have more than this.
Yeah. And to be honest, I got halfway through, and I'm like, oh wait, there's nothing really in here, and it's there's a lot of Michigan talk in it too,
that's the thing is they're telling their own story at that point.
Yeah, and I've also seen those docs have kind of tried to steer, they try to make the bad guy look like the good guy sometimes, which I mean I can see that angle, but this is the most Michigan kind of thing in the world, like stealing signs and going to that length to get an edge is the most Jim Harbaugh and Michigan thing in the world. So I don't know if we can make them the good guys. It's just so funky football different. It's different.
We'll find out the sanctions against them coming up today at noon, and we'll talk about that on the halftime show for sure. I came across something earlier on this week. It is a 10-year anniversary of a very significant moment in South Carolina camp history, and we'll dive into that coming up next as the Extra Point rolls along. Tyler Head, Joe Machika with you on your Friday on the Game. Welcome back in. It is the Extra Point. Tyler Head and Joe Machika with you on your Friday here on The Game. As we get into Who Sprung a Leak, brought to you by our friends over at American Leak Detection. We're at the calm before the storm of football season, right? You got some preseason games. High school's getting started. College starts up next weekend. We haven't had any coaches that have blown their lid quite yet because for the most part, you're still practicing. You're still getting ready for the games that count coming up here very soon. And typically through camp, we don't hear a lot of like crazy quotes that really oh my God, that coach is losing his mind. But I came across something earlier this week on Twitter and I had seen this plenty of times before. I did not realize what the timestamp on it was. But it was this week 10 years ago when Steve Spurrier, after or in the middle of a camp session, talking to the media, gave them a little bit of a twist on what coaches typically say in camp settings. Now, again, he was doing this kind of tongue-in-cheek, but he basically said, hey, y'all are get the same boring answers every single day. Let me give you something a little bit different. So, to a degree, you could say he sprung a leak when he said this 10 years ago.
Another sorry practice today. These guys, I don't know if we're going to be able to beat anybody this year. Quarterbacks, they can't hit the broadside of a barn right now. I don't know if we could hit that indoor facility right there. Receivers, they couldn't catch a cold if it was the middle of February, dropping everything. Defensive backs, gosh, I wonder why they got grass stains all over their jerseys. They fall about every play. About 2 or 3 of them are falling. And our kickers, gee, it's like the Army. Left, right. They're kicking it all over the place. I don't know if we can beat anybody this year. Guys, and leadership? No, we don't have any leaders out here. Guys are soft. They just can't. I don't know. Maybe I ought to give them a week off and start over and see if we can regroup and find some real tough guys out here. But it's been a struggle this preseason. It's been a big struggle, man. I don't know how we're going to be. Have you ever heard a coach say that?
Only Spurrier, I feel like, could get away with doing something like that. What do you say?
Yeah, I say yes, Tyler, because there's a bunch of Spurrierisms that we can't really say because of the implications. His abbreviation for Florida State is one of those.
Yeah.
He's got one against your Georgia Bulldogs as well.
Yeah.
Old school, the old ball coach.
Yeah.
Most definitely, indeed, living up to it.
My favorite thing of him talking about other schools was he can't spell citrus without UT. Talking about Tennessee. That was a good one. The thing about Georgia, well, I was got a couple players arrested early in the season, so I like playing them in week number 2.
Play them early on in the season, got people suspended. It's, old school, man. It's crazy.
I mean, from a quote standpoint, he's up there as an all-time great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Eli Drinkwitz has been talked about a little second generation Steve Spurrier.
Drink is growing on me because I think he intentionally pokes bear. I think everything that Spurrier said was just him being him, right? Like he just unfiltered, say whatever came to his mind. If something sucked, he said it sucked, and he wasn't afraid of that. I do think Drinkwitz tries maybe a little bit too hard.
Yeah, definitely.
With like, hey, I'm gonna get people talking about this, and I do enjoy that because that does give us content to talk about, but I don't think it's quite as organic as maybe some of the Spurrier stuff was.
And he's getting there to where it's venturing into the organic territory because he's just doing it so often now.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, he said he told his players like not to check the media, but you check an ex-girlfriend's Instagram every once in a while.
Yeah.
Which is like it's becoming more consistent. Like that. He's just saying stuff. So I get it. He's growing, and it also it's a thorn in the side of South Carolina because it's Mizzou when he comes in and it's a decent football team.
And again, he'll never be Spurrier as much as he may try to be.
Absolutely.
But it creates the conversation of what are the best college football coach quotes of all time. And look, we couldn't fit all the great ones into one show. We do have a few wanted to select, though, and I'll start off with my favorite that everybody knows all that well.
That's why I don't read the newspaper, because it's garbage. And the editor that let it come out is garbage. Attacking an amateur athlete for doing everything right. And then you want to write articles about guys that don't do things right and downgrade them, the ones that do make plays. Are you kidding me? Where are we at in society today? Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. I'm not a kid. Write something about me or our coaches. Don't write about a kid that does everything right, that's heart's broken, and then say that the coaches said he was scared. That ain't true.
Can you believe that was 18 years ago?
No, I can't actually. Still employed by.
Still employed.
Yeah,
One of the longest tenured coaches in FBS.
right. That mullet's still there, man.
Mullet's still there, man. Gundy's like that. I think because Gundy had been at Oklahoma State since '05.
Yeah.
Right. Former player there. Like people knew him, but that is that his most defining moment of his college football head coaching career? Because I think it is.
Yeah, probably.
Now, he's had a lot of good teams.
Even if he goes out and wins.
Yeah, like he's had a lot of good teams, and he's sniffed being in the national championship conversation. Famously blew it at the end of the 2011 season when they could have played for a national championship. But like, everybody knows that quote. I really think, despite all the stuff that he's done as a head coach, wins, championships, all that kind of stuff, Big 12 championships, I think that quote is bigger than any of his success.
Is it unfair to say he's college football's Kenny Powers?
No, not at all. I think that's perfectly fair.
Right. I was gonna say long tenured coach, the mullet again, reigning supreme.
And he's not afraid of it.
A character, Mike Gundy. Pretty good stuff. Tyler, I sent you some sound bites for this too. Yeah.
And you picked one that I think flies under the radar in terms of great coach quotes from none other than David Bennett at Coastal Carolina.
Trying to get our two boys ready to carry them to golf tournament before practice, right? 12 cats live across the road. Our door's open. Screen's broke. We need to get a new screen door, but the screen's broke, so you can come in through the screen, but you can't get back out of it. I turn and look. There's a little kitty cat in our kitchen. So I said, "What are you doing in here, little kitty cat?" By that time, the cat turns, tries to get back out. That screen won't go that way. Cat starts going meow, all crazy. And I told our players, we need more dogs. Bo's barking in the back. I have to go shut Bo up. Mel's like, "What's going on?" I said, "There's a cat in the house." "Cat in the house?" I said, "Yeah, there's a cat in the house." So I told our players, I tried to let it out the front door. Meow, meow, the cat's still going crazy in there. And I told our players, you need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. Be a dog. We don't need no meows. We don't need no cats. We need more dogs.
I feel like this does not get talked about enough.
No, it doesn't. Oh, the mighty things that can come out of Conway, South Carolina, Tyler.
Man.
Like, we need more dogs, Tyler, is like one of the greatest quotes from a college football coach of all time. It's slept on. I go to it all the time. I was talking about a couple weeks ago, and I was worried that I was bringing it up too quickly again. But no, it's elite stuff from Bennett there.
Split Zone Duo, and I'm going to be talking with Alex Kirshner, one of the hosts today at 2:30 on the halftime show. They clip that in their intro. They have that. They have Will Muschamp's "Do Your Job," where he punches the board, and then Nick Saban's ran through us like blank through a tin horn. Also, two great coach quotes as well. But yeah, they have the meow in there that I'm glad it helps that stay relevant when other people may have forgotten about it.
Yeah, I was gonna go the Muschamp route, but I didn't want to bring up any bad memories because the way that he talks is it was so negative.
Yeah.
And it's like, is this even good? Like, it's just no, it's out of left field. So going to a better vibe in this next one.
Well, we can't talk about great coach quotes without talking about the legend himself, Mike Leach, and his moment on the television screen on Friday Night Lights.
You've lost your inner pirate. Sword. Have you ever heard swing your sword? You're supposed to swing your sword like this. You're swinging yours like this. I mean, you've got to find your inner pirate. A lot of times things just happen for a reason. We don't know why God wants it that way, but you can't make the best out of it until you get back your inner pirate. You might be the luckiest man alive and not even know it.
Now, I like to think when he walked on the set of the show that day, they didn't hand him a script.
Yeah.
They said, you just say whatever you think you need to say in that moment, and that's what he came up with because that was Coach Leach to a T.
Oh, 100%. And I believe, I probably can say that I've seen that somewhere, or it would be very on brand for Mike Leach to do something like that. Don't want to discredit the legend. But, yeah, that's elite stuff. Find your inner pirate is one of, the greatest mindsets, and his teams were good. Because of it, they rallied around him. So, yeah, it was big and had to throw in the legend, Mike Leach. College football's not the same without him.
When you sent me that last night, I did spend about 10 minutes on a Mike Leach compilation of just random quotes all over the place. And, man, we sure missed that guy in college football.
Yeah, I know. I was blessed. The media days that I was able to go to, Mike Leach was at with Mississippi State. And, unreal how that lined up. Crazy listening to him talk and speak and, whatnot. But Yeah, good stuff.
If I could talk to one legend of college football for an hour, it would be Mike Leach, because who knows where that conversation would go, but it'd be wildly entertaining nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can remember, kind of going pastor or whatever, he'd be fascinated with 5 points, Columbia. And,
totally.
The yesterday's Cowboy was thrown into the mix as well. So
he'd have fun with that. Let us know your favorite coach quotes, 803-404-6100, and I'll hit some of those up on the other side. Joe, you got to run, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Tyler, thanks for having me as always. And, fun show today.
It is
almost there.
Yeah, we'll wrap up the hour on the other side. Is the Extra Point. Tyler Head along with you on your Friday on the Game.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage. And the editor that let it come out.
Welcome back in. It is the Extra Points Out Ahead along with you, wrapping up the hour here on your Friday on the Game. Quick reminder, the Game Summer Golf Classic coming up a week from today, sponsored by Krager Showrooms, formerly the Nest in the Vista. Next week we'll be out at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia, 9 a.m. tee time, 7:30. Registration is beginning. Come join us for the onion sausages for breakfast, the mimosa bar provided by Saki's Wine and Spirits, and Firehouse Subs for lunch. A prize to give away, as well as the golf gun making its return, which I'm very, very excited for. $400 for a team. If you want to sign up, give Charwood a call at 803-755-2000 and press the number 2 to sign up for the Games Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms. Before I get into some more coach quotes, real quick, 2 weeks from Sunday, not only is the start of the college football season for South Carolina, it's also the Cookout Southern 500 at Darlington Raceway. Yesterday, Joe Gibbs Racing driver Christopher Bell joined me. We had a little bit of a sit-down interview as he was on his way throughout the first pitch of the Fireflies game last night, and that is uploaded to the 107.5 The Game YouTube channel. So if you want to hear my conversation with Christopher Bell, you can go and check that out. Talked for about 25 minutes, a lot of good insight. Talked about Darlington, the state of NASCAR right now, and a lot of other good stuff as well. So if you want to check that out, it's available on our YouTube channel at 107.5 The Game, or excuse me, at The Game TV Radio. So we talked in the last segment there about great coach quotes. Of course, had Spurrier in there. Had "I'm a Man, I'm 40" from Coach Gundy, or from Mike Gundy, Coach Leach, David Bennett, the underrated "Act More Like Dogs" from Coastal Carolina all those years ago, and a lot of you weighing in as well with some of your favorites. Have to throw in there. This is a good one. The dude weighs in and says Bob Green from Montana Tech. Now, if you've never heard Bob Green, and I pulled some stuff up from him here, he is about as all over the place as Mike Leach was. I'll play a short snippet of some of his best moments when it comes to quotes from Bob Green of Montana Tech.
The key to the win was that the Ore Diggers took control early. Kind of like when you get married. That first day, your wife takes control early. And that's what the Ore Diggers did. Our football team was like the kid that plays second French horn in the school band. We got to play better. And that's a double-edged sword, It's kind of like watching your mother-in-law go off a cliff in a Cadillac. You got mixed feelings. He's like that black lab on the first day of pheasant hunting season. He was pulling at the chain. We're kind of like a woodpecker in a petrified forest. Just keep busy and look for opportunities.
That's a little insight into Bob Green of Montana Tech. You may not know anything about the Montana Tech program, but I guarantee you've probably come across some of his quotes at some point in time. Very Coach Leach-esque in terms of random, off-the-wall type of humor, and that's what we appreciate with coaches, right? Things that are not your typical run-of-the-mill, average, boring quotes. And while we don't have as many characters in college football today, there are still a few out there that obviously exist. But when you look back in the years past, obviously Steve Spurrier was truly one of the best when it came to the quotes that he gave. How about Coach O, right? You couldn't understand a lot of things that Coach O said, but he was not boring by any means. And some you also have to look at somebody like Nick Saban as well. I mean, I mentioned the blank through a tin horn. I'm not going to tell you, so stop asking, when he went off on Maria Taylor after that season opener in 2018, when he wouldn't give up who the starter between Tua and Jalen Hurts was going to be. Saban had some underrated quotes, right? I mean, Saban is respected, obviously, for what he did as a coach and everything, when everything that he accomplished. But, man, some of his quotes were pretty underrated in a lot of ways when it came to, especially in press conferences. We can expand this out to players, too. Somebody here weighing in saying, we ain't come to play school. If you remember Cardell Jones, years before he ever quarterbacked Ohio State to the first ever college football playoff national championship, that was his tweet from, I think it was like summer 2011, maybe. Again, years before he ever took the helms as their starting quarterback. And the joke was, well, this guy's never going to see the field. And lo and behold, he did. Ended up helping them win the national championship back in 2014. Got one here, Woody Hayes. So when we went for 2 against Michigan, when Ohio State was leading 50-14, his response was, because I couldn't go for 3, which if that doesn't underscore how deep that rivalry runs between Ohio State and Michigan, or Ohio State and that team up north, I guess is the way that they would say it. I think that's the perfect way to encapsulate that for certainly there. And again, we could be here all day when we're talking about Coach Leach quotes. I wish I could just sit here and let you listen to his 5-minute spiel on if all the Pac-12 mascots at the time when he was coaching Washington State in the Pac-12 could get into a fight, who would come out the winner. And he was questioning the mythological powers of a Sun Devil and what kind of weaponry a Ute would have. Classic stuff. Again, I drove down the rabbit hole of watching Coach Leach compilations last night when I knew me and Joe were going to talk about this coming up today. But, yeah, a lot of good coach quotes over the years. Appreciate y'all guys weighing in on the Firehouse Subs text line as well. But coming up next, it is the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. We'll get back to football conversation as well as talk to Coach Hannon and Coach Shelley Smith from Gamecock Soccer as their seasons are getting set to get underway. Well, actually, women's soccer started off last night. We'll talk to Coach Shelley Smith about that as well. It's all coming up in the next hour here on your Friday on the Game. Well, welcome in. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris along with you here on your Friday on the Game. We've got a busy show today. We're very guest-heavy. Going to be talking some Gamecock soccer with Coach Annan and Coach Shelley Smith coming up here in just a couple of minutes on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. But most importantly, guys, how are we doing on this Friday morning?
We are, well, I won't speak for Chris. He seems to be doing well. I'm doing well. I'm doing great.
Yeah. You were actually kind of early today, Wes.
Was I?
A little bit. You rolled in about 10:57.
yeah, he did.
Earlier than normal.
Yeah, maybe.
Early on a Friday. Work ethic. You know.
Yeah, got to get the weekend
Show
started
early
early
on the
right?
weekend.
We'll of course get to those conversations with the soccer coaches in just a moment, but we are now Lenora Sellers days away from kickoff, 16 days. You knew I was going to have to ask the Sellers question, right? Hope you guys study for that. So go ahead and get our trivia questions going before we talk to Coach Annan here in just a couple of minutes, and we'll start with Lenora Sellers. In his debut against Furman back in 2023, Sellers went 4 for 4 for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. He completed those passes to 4 different receivers. Can you name all 4 of those receivers?
So I know the 2 that he threw touchdowns to.
Okay.
It was Tyshawn Russell and Nick Carver. Those are the two touchdowns. But the other 2, that's the difficulty there. So later in the game, I'm thinking we probably didn't have. Well, I don't want to say for sure. I'm thinking we probably didn't have a Xavier Leggett reception. Let me think. Let me go Luke Doty for number 3. And then let me go, I feel like maybe a tight end or a running back.
Got to throw more in there.
Peyton Mangrum.
You have a different answer, Wes?
Well, you got at least 2 right. You think you got 3 right? How confident are you?
I'm 100% confident in the 2 touchdown receptions.
I will tell you he did not get the answer completely right.
Okay.
I was very unconfident
You have
about
an
Peyton
opportunity to get it completely right.
I feel like Peyton Mangrum is not correct, but I just threw it out.
Okay, I'll go, obviously, Tyshawn Russell, Nick Harbor. Give me Juju McDowell.
Good one.
Oh, man. And give me... So this would have been not last year, the year before.
Yeah,
2023. Yep.
I keep wanting to say Mazio. Mazio would not have been on the team. Give me DJ Twitty.
Oh, my.
Oh, man. No. So you guys are both right on Tyshawn Russell and Nick Carver. Those, of course, were the 2 touchdowns. Peyton Mangrum was one of them.
Oh.
Eddie Lewis caught the first reception.
Golly. So I was not confident in Peyton Mangrum. I would have been, if you would have told me Peyton Mangrum was right, I'd been like, I nailed it because I thought Doty was one. So, man.
Not quite. Here is your bonus opportunity, though. How many pass attempts did he have for the rest of the season after that? Price is right. Closest answer.
So take out those
4.
Take
out those 4 against Furman for the rest of the time he got on the field that season. How many pass attempts did he have?
0.
I'm going to go 3.
0 is correct. He only ran the ball, including that 36-yard touchdown against Vanderbilt.
Okay.
So you have half a point.
I'll take it. I will take it.
Let's see. Let's get our updated standings. You are now leading by a full point again, 22.5 to 21.5.
All right.
So,
all right.
Okay.
We're getting close, boys.
Yep.
We are getting close.
I can smell it. This time next week, plug your ears. We'll be talking about week 0 at Charwood Golf Club for the Summer Golf Classic, sponsored by Krager Showrooms. You'll just have to suffer through it, Wes.
Okay.
We'll get through it.
All right.
All right. I got to get Coach
worse.
I got to get Coach Hannon on the line, and we'll talk some soccer here in just a second.
You want us just to hang out and look at each other?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, looking forward to talking some soccer. Chris, the only reason I got that 0 was because I feel like I wrote so many articles about Sellers going into his starting year last year.
Yeah.
You know how you always have to like you have to like plug in the last season they were blah 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 blah. And so you would like go back to your previous article in Sellers and be like, let me see what he did last year. And I just remember 4 for 5 being the final, or 4 for 4, whatever it was, being the final thing from that year.
Yeah. That's a good call. Dang. It's almost like the Kai Kroger, where he's like, for a while, he was perfect as a passer.
By the way, speaking of Kai, I talked to Mason Love yesterday for our upcoming Garnet Trust interview.
How was that? I'm excited to hear.
Slight tease here.
Yeah.
My man definitely does have some Kai Kroger, I would say. I want to put him, that's a lot to say, but he's got some of those same attributes. We'll put it like that.
Like a Kai Kroger vibe?
Well, and like some athleticism to him.
Yeah.
He, I didn't ask him to demonstrate it. He says he can do a standing backflip.
What?
So,
when you talking to Joe D. Camillus, and I know you got to talk to him at the Birdies of Beamer Golf Tournament. I chatted with him at the media day, and man, he, Joe D's being very careful, obviously, because you've got Mason Love is not punted in a game, and then you've got the benefit of looking back at Kai Kroger. Kai Kroger is a guy who, has 4 years of tape, and like we all saw what he did at the college level. So you're right, you don't want to jump to that conclusion. This guy's going to be as good as Kai Kroger. But what he will say is like, he's got a chance. He's got a chance to be in that category, which I think is exciting to hear. We listened to Shane Beamer earlier this week. He said, hey, we feel pretty good. Like, we'd like more consistency in the kicking game. I think he was more talking about kicking even, like place kicking off, than punting. And he said, look, we punted the ball really well in the scrimmage. Now, you got to go do it in a game. But, like, from just a physical standpoint, he's certainly got all the tools.
Yeah, he does. And I asked him, about the possibility of, about to give away the whole interview, but that's okay. I asked him about the possibility of doing all three. And he said, essentially he is on, not a pitch count, but this just kind of shows you how much data they take in now and how much they use data around the program. He knows how many times he's going to kick every practice, like right down to even the kicks on the side, which I thought was kind of fascinating. I'm sure football in Preston's days, they weren't going, well, hey, how many times has the kicker kicked today in a practice, Yeah. But the data is there for a reason now. And so essentially he didn't really seem too worried about if he has to do all three. That's just something he'll be prepared for, and they will have a plan for it, essentially.
Yeah. Again, we're efforting to get Coach Ann on the line there. Hopefully give us a ring back here in just a second, but kind of relating soccer to football there when it comes to kicking. And Mason Love, if I remember, a very accomplished soccer player in his day. No, I'm thinking of somebody else.
I don't think he was a soccer guy.
Okay, sorry, I'm confused with somebody
Lenore
else.
Sellers.
Maybe I'm thinking of Lenore Sellers, but a lot of the kickers do come from that soccer type of background, which again translates to kicking football and all those kind of things.
The reason I'm saying no, and now he could have left it out, I don't think so. The reason I'm saying no is because I asked him, hey, what other sports did you do? And I was actually shocked that he did not.
Gotcha.
I do not believe he mentions, because I was like, wait, not soccer?
Yeah.
It's kind of surprising to me. Said he grew up playing baseball, gymnastics. There's where he learned to do the backflip.
Yeah.
And
flexibility as well.
Yep. I think some swimming in there as well. We'll have to, everybody will have to listen to the interview. He rattled off, he's not from the Southeast. So
right.
There are different sports that I think are more popular, obviously, in different parts of the country. And so, I always ask the guys most of the time, hey, like, what else did you do growing up? And it's always fascinating to see. A lot of these guys are multi-sport athletes, but to see what different sports they did excel in.
Yeah, I mean, you go look at what he and sometimes in their official bios they'll list like other sports. They actually don't have any for Mason, but you're right, Wes. I mean, suburb of Kansas City, Riverside, Missouri, and was pretty. He was decorated in football, that's for sure. And like we've talked about how, hey, there's a world in which he could handle multiple things for South Carolina. I think that's kind of remains to be seen. We feel pretty confident he's going to do something for this team this year, whether that's punting, kicking off. Heck, I mean, it's not really ideal to have him do all three, but kind of on the table. 57-yard long field goal in high school. Obviously different ball game, kicking in high school and at the college level, but has a strong leg. This is a guy that's got, as you said, Wes, like he's got athleticism, has a powerful leg. He's got the tools.
Yeah. Well, and as we've talked about so much, this is such a rare instance for Carolina or any team for that matter. I know I looked the other day, and Oklahoma's dealing with replacing their kicker and puncher, but I don't think they're replacing their long snapper from a year ago. You're in a very rare situation, and holder too for Carolina, where you're having to replace all those quite literal specialists on your team as opposed to having the same punter, mainly the same holder for the entire time that Beamer's been here. And again, special teams had its ups and downs last year that when you expect to play in as many tight games against really good teams this year, those things need to be buttoned up because that can end up costing you something.
Guys, I got to think. So let's say Mason Love is the best punter, and let's say he is the best kicker on the team. He wins both jobs. I got to think at least someone will be able to handle kickoff duties to take that off of him. And I would think a guy like Max Kelly, who comes in as a true freshman, is someone who you could maybe put that on. I think when Max is coming with the big leg, place kicking is it's such a thing where you got to rely on the snap, you got to rely on the hold, you got to rely on all these kind of variables that will affect your ability to do what you need to do. Kickoff, I mean, unless a gust of wind gets you and they let you respot the thing, kickoff is the exact same every time. So I think it is a little bit easier to find a guy who can do that, even if they are a true freshman. And I personally would be a little bit surprised if we saw him end up having to do all three. Now, if you told me, hey, he's the kicker and the punter, I don't really know that I would be surprised at all for that. So
we'll see how that goes as camp goes on. Again, 2 weeks away from the season starting against Virginia Tech. We'll talk some women's soccer on the other side. Coach Shelley Smith joining us fresh off of a victory to start the season last night. That's coming up next on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on your Friday on the Game.
All right, everyone. One of our great partners here on the show, the folks over at Game Day Men's Health. They help men reclaim their vitality by optimizing their hormone levels. They specialize in testosterone replacement therapy that can help boost your energy and strength. So if you're a guy out there, you've been struggling with some symptoms that you don't want, like weight gain, muscle loss, if you're tired, if you feel fatigued, if you're not sleeping well, give our guys over at Game Day Men's Health a call, 803-265-3161, or you can go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com. Find out more about them. They have same-day appointments available for fast, convenient care. They have in-house labs. You don't have to go anywhere else. When you go to Game Day Men's Health, you can get your results in just about 15 minutes, get a personalized, in-depth consultation, comfortable man cave-style clinics, complete with TVs and refreshments, and, of course, personalized treatment plans designed by licensed providers. GameDayMen'sHealth.com or 803-265-3161.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West, Chris along with you here on your Friday. We'll talk to Coach Annan coming up next week as we'll get the scheduling worked out on that as men's soccer gets rolling coming up next Thursday. But last night, women's soccer got their season underway as they took down College of Charleston 1-0 on the road. And joining us now on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, talk about her team is Coach Shelly Smith. First of all, Coach, thank you for taking your time for us this morning as always. And what's that feeling of waking up the day after a victory to start the season?
Yeah, good morning, and thanks for having me. Definitely thrilled to be talking about a win this morning, and a way to start the season on the road and against a tough opponent. Charleston really had a great atmosphere there and came out, with a lot of intensity against us and made it difficult. But our players stayed together and found a way to win, which was huge on the road to start the season.
Hey, Coach, like Tyler said, appreciate you hopping on with us. And year 25, for those listening, for Shelly and Jamie, that's obviously kind of a milestone year. And just being able to do anything successfully for 25 years is kind of insane in today's world. So congrats on that. Does it feel any different at all? I know you were talking earlier this week about it. It did maybe make you be a little bit more just reflective about everything you guys have been through, just kind of building the program over the years.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I that is what I had mentioned because it is true. I think we're, recognizing kind of the success of the program, but also at the 30th year of the soccer program, which is a big milestone as well. And also being here for 25 years of that, it is special. It's something I didn't really, as a young coach, you don't think you're going to be somewhere that long, and you're just kind of always trying to figure out your niche and where you're going to be next. And that's kind of how your coaching is. You're always looking, okay, what's the next year and next season. And you forget to really look at where you've come from and what's been done. And so I think this has been a great opportunity. We're bringing back a lot of alumni this fall to celebrate everyone's piece in the program to help us get to, the successes we've had, but to this point. And so I think it's a fun year, and and it's hard to focus too much on all that because we're in the middle of the season and we're doing day-to-day here too. But taking the time to look back at all that has been fun.
Coach Smith, this is Chris. Thanks again for joining us. A hallmark of your teams at South Carolina has been defense, and last night, put on a really good performance there. You guys had 9 shots on goal and only 1 for College of Charleston. So what did you see from your defense last night? How do you feel about it as the season goes along? What have you learned about your team defensively in this new year?
Yeah, I think we work hard to be organized as a group and hard to break down. And, I think our team did that again. And when we talk about defense, it's not just the back line or the goalkeeper. It's the entire group that works to make it predictable, help each other, cover for each other, and then they did that. And they were tough to break down. So gave them little chances. They threatened, but we were able to minimize a lot of the dangerous opportunities that could happen. So very proud of the defensive efforts. And, our two captains this year, Tina in goal and Gracie Fall at center back, both have stepped up and leaders on the field. And we're looking forward to them continuing to lead that defense all season.
Good talking to Gamecock women's soccer coach Shelly Smith here on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Of course, last season we talked about Katie Shea Collins coming in as a freshman and doing so much for this team. Last night, another freshman comes in, Mackenzie Johnson, and scores the lone goal in that victory. What should we know about her, and how big of an impact is she going to have on the team this year?
Yeah, Mackenzie's done a great job this preseason to earn a starting role. She took an opportunity. We have another player that is injured right now that would have probably been in the lineup, but Mackenzie took the advantage of her opportunity as a freshman to come in and fill a role we needed. And Katie Shea obviously draws so much attention. She's a very dynamic player. A lot of the focus is going to be on her every game, and players around her need to take advantage of that opportunity that she creates for them, as well as for herself. And she did that again. She created, and Mackenzie did a tremendous job to hit a great upper 90 shot from a ways out. It was a beautiful goal, and that's what you need, someone to step up and take their moment. And very proud of what she did, and looking forward to seeing her do more of that all season.
Katie Shea was nothing short of a freshman superstar last year. What do you think is maybe the next step for her development this year, Coach?
Yeah, I think she's got to handle being kind of the one. Kat Berry took a lot of that pressure off her just as a big target for her that drew a lot of attention, being a fifth-year senior for us, All-American player. Everyone kind of knew Kat, and Katie Shea came along and did an amazing job to work off of her. It was hard to stop two of them. So that's where Katie Shea knows now she's the focal point, and she's got to be just a little bit more creative and strong and able to create things where she knows she's going to always have someone kind of near her or around her. And so that's the challenge when you are a star player and you have the focus of the defense. And she's capable of breaking down opponents for sure. So she's learning to be that much better and creative, given the fact she'll have less time to create things for herself.
Coach, SEC opener is still, a little less than a month away, several more non-conference games coming up first. But I feel like we talk about this every year because the SEC is so good in women's soccer and so quality. But if you can, just kind of zoom out and give us a big picture look at the conference and just how competitive you expect it to be this season.
Oh, yeah, every year it becomes that much more difficult. And but that's the neat thing about the conference. It's grown so much over the years since I've been here. And we've always wanted to put ourselves at the top of the game in the country, and our conference has done that. Last night was a good example. I think Tennessee ended up beating North Carolina, who was coming off their national championship last year. So every season's new, but it shows that anyone can beat anyone, and that's a good example of what our conference is capable of doing from the start. And hopefully the teams will continue, because when we get an SEC play, we want our conference to have done as well as they can in the non-conference portion. And then we all battle it out, and it is difficult. The talent in our conference gets better every year, and it's hard. But we're one of those teams that they look at every year as a challenge, and we will continue to compete for championships with this group that we have.
Oh, and Coach, I know you're looking forward to that extra juice and energy from what's always legitimately the best crowd in soccer coming up this weekend in the next couple of games, finally getting to play at home again.
Yeah, no, the crowd is the best. Stone Stadium is an amazing atmosphere, and we thank our fans for coming out. And this Sunday at 6 o'clock, we play South Florida, who's another great opponent coming in here in the non-conference. And then we go and face Ohio State next week on Thursday night here at 7. And so both of those are huge for us as we're getting ready to face our conference season. So those are two strong opponents that will be here at Stone Stadium, and we'd love for our fans to come out and continue supporting us like they have each year. And last year we were number one in attendance in the country for every women's soccer program, and just so thankful to our fans, and we hope to continue to kind of hold that record.
Well, Coach, we're looking forward to following along, and certainly wish you and your team the best of luck as the season rolls along.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Coach Shelly Smith there joining us on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. And again, women's soccer back in action Sunday night, 6 o'clock over at Stone Stadium, taking on South Florida. We'll jump back into football coming up next. Brett Ciancia of Pick 6 Previews joining us to discuss South Carolina and everything going on around college football as we're 2 weeks out from the season getting started here on your Friday on the Game.
All right, everyone, as we roll into lunchtime, generally a lunch hour here on the Game. I mean, 11 a.m., That's perfectly good for me for lunch, or when we leave the show. It is definitely lunchtime. Check out our friends over at Firehouse Subs. 17 locations and growing all around the Midlands. All of your Firehouse Subs are available. Spicy Cajun chicken, Wes with the brisket add bacon, Tyler, the turkey bacon ranch, plenty of others. They've also got the smoking barbecue triple stack, too, in the classic or the Carolina Gold barbecue sauce. Trust me, they're both delicious. And, of course, all your Firehouse Subs favorites. My favorite way to order, either firehousesubs.com or the app. That's my favorite. Go there, use the Rapid Rescue, sign in, sign up for a free account if you don't already have one. You can earn rewards every time you use the Rapid Rescue to go. It's going to show you the closest Firehouse Subs location near you. There's plenty of them. If you're in the Midlands, there's one close to you. Check out firehousesubs.com or the Firehouse Subs app today.
Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler, Wes, and Chris along with you on your Friday here. Heading out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Welcoming in from Pick 6 Previews, Brett Ciancia joining us here on this Friday. Brett, first of all, appreciate you taking your time for us this morning. Talking about South Carolina first here. We talked all week, 13th in the AP poll, obviously a lot of people think highly of them, but plenty of people like Brett McMurphy, Reese Davis didn't even have them ranked. Where do you view and where does South Carolina fall for you as we're 2 weeks away from the season starting?
Hey, well, thanks for having me on. It's a busy time of year. It's magazine season. We have the 14th annual Pick Six Previews magazine going out, and everyone's optimistic this time of year. I think it's two parts. Last year's special season for South Carolina, they were one of the hottest teams in the country last November. People were stumping for them for the playoff, and rightfully so. They went out and beat Clemson, a huge achievement for the program. But looking forward to 2025, it's going to be tough to repeat for me. I'm more in that Brett McMurphy, Reese Davis camp. It's such a deep conference. I have so much respect for this league that when you sign a top 25 recruiting class, it's not even keeping up with the Joneses down here. It's unbelievable. So just the sheer talent in this conference finds me fading South Carolina a little bit. I love that quarterback with Lenora Sellers. I love what you have there. But replacing a lot of stars. Rocket Sanders, the 1,000-yard back, is gone. A lot of the interior defensive line is gone. The Nagurski winner there is gone. So questions, but, South Carolina is going to be a tough out, and it's just such a deep conference.
Hey, Brett, it's Wes. Appreciate you hopping on, man. Congrats on the magazine, coming out again this year. And let's keep it right there with the SEC. Who do you have as the favorites this year? And then, maybe who do you have kind of maybe surprising or just being a little bit better than the average person thinks?
Yeah, well, appreciate that hype for the magazine. It's I have Texas and Alabama playing in Atlanta. I know a lot of people will go Georgia there, but what we have in Alabama I think is being overlooked. They're still number one in the country in the 5-year recruiting average. They have the most 5-stars on their 2-deep. I put out my advanced rosters this week. 13 5-stars on their 2-deep. That's probably more than the whole ACC has combined. So they're extremely talented over at Alabama. And I like their move bringing Ryan Grubb. He was the offensive mastermind behind Washington's run with Michael Penix, along with DeBoer. So now you're getting the real DeBoer experience. It's year 2. I think it's one of the best teams in the country. So I have them playing Texas in Atlanta. And then for a surprise team, I'll give you 2, and they might be tampered by their hard schedules, but I like what's happening in Florida and Oklahoma. I think with Billy Napier, it goes to show you how quickly a program can change in a few months. They wanted him out of town in November. He goes out, he wins a couple games, gets everybody to come back to Gainesville for 25, and now they're a really strong team. And same with Oklahoma. I think they repaired their offensive problem by bringing in John Mateer from Washington State with his coordinator, with his young ace coordinator. So 2 really, really strong teams. But look at those schedules, guys. It's an absolute gauntlet. They both face 7 ranked teams. I mean, you got some teams in the Big Ten that are playing too. So it's just a whole different beast down here in the SEC.
Brett, let's go to the other side of that. So you mentioned some teams that you're maybe high on to exceed expectations. Are there any teams out there that you're not as much of a believer in that maybe you're getting some preseason hype? You can say that for the SEC, but expand it out nationally if you want to.
Yeah, for sure. I'll give you one here in the SEC, and that's Tennessee. I came into this preview magazine process. It's a one-man show. I do all 68 teams, and for Tennessee, what I thought was going to be the storyline was their offensive line changing, and maybe if they can get more vertical passing. And then all of a sudden, the Nico drama hits, and now you just have an offense totally broken down. It's going to be 10 new starters on this offense, so much change on that side of the ball. So I'm fading Tennessee in the SEC. But on the national scale, I'll say this. I'm not making many friends in Champaign, Illinois this year because they're coming in as one of the preseason darlings. I saw them number 12 in the AP poll. And again, special year for them last year. South Carolina fans got to see it up close in the bowl game. It was a solid coaching job by Brett Bielema. But I think they kind of hit their ceiling last year with this roster. My advanced numbers, my stats, they don't look like a top 10 team at all. In fact, my numbers had them 35th in the country last year. 32nd this year. It's nowhere close to where they are 12th in the AP. So I have them down at 7-5 for the year. Nowhere near this dark horse talk that we're hearing.
We're talking to Brett Ciancia of Pick Six Previews here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Let's go back to South Carolina for a second here. You mentioned that you're on your profile. It mentions you're a Heisman voter, and Sellers is somebody that's getting a lot of Heisman hype in this offseason. What would a Heisman Trophy-like season look like for the North Sellers? Maybe not necessarily just stats, but as far as moments and things that he would need to accomplish to warrant that in your eyes.
Yeah, well, unfortunately with the award, it really comes down to a lot of teams that are on playoff contending teams. That's just how it's been. That just means you're in bigger moments. I know last year might have been the exception with Travis Hunter, but for the most part, these are teams that into November, they are in top 10 games. They're in conference championships. Just they have the national eye on them. So I think for Lenora Sellers, and look, he's electric. I love watching him. He's already done it last year. If he can put together more of those highlight plays, but more importantly, if South Carolina as a team is in the SEC hunt there in November, something like that, and they have huge moments against, say he goes off against Oklahoma and Alabama, or in Death Valley at LSU or in College Station. So he's got plenty of national stages there. Part of it is a team award. You're not going to win it on a 4-8 or a 5-7 team. You got to win some of these ball games and be in the top 25 and be in the SEC race. So, but on an individual level, he's certainly got it. I mean, he's electric. He's going to get you not 1,000 yards, but maybe 500 yards rushing, key spots, key third down scrambles, efficient passing the ball. So yeah, he's definitely a candidate, and I think you see that reflected on the Heisman odds there. It's really a deep field this year, but he's got his name in the ring.
Hey, Brett, I was looking through the magazine before we came on, and was kind of looking for some South Carolina-specific things. If I'm reading this right, it looks like your metrics have South Carolina pretty high up there in terms of player development over the last few years. I think 6th in the country. What can you tell us about that and just kind of what goes into that? And then, if you will, what are some other just kind of unique things you have going on with the magazine that people might like?
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing up the player development. I think that's key because a lot of people will cover recruiting, and that's certainly important. That's the backbone of a program, but they might stop there. I think you got to have the recruiting, and then what else happens on those 4 years on campus? You got to have coaching schemes that work. You got to recruit to your schemes, and then you got to develop the talent. You got to develop your players and send them to the pros. So what that number does is it compares South Carolina's recruiting rankings on paper from the high school ranks, and then compares it to actual NFL draft output. And you're seeing that this staff with Shane Beamer, they're churning out pros above expectation. So excellent job with development there. I'll say that when I first started Pick Six Previews, it was kind of the opposite with South Carolina. They were on the bad end of that formula. So great job by flipping the script and getting them into the pros. Some other unique things, while I have my game grader formula, it sounds nerdy, but it's just a numerical way to grade these teams. And I think what people like about my magazine is it's a mix of numbers and also narrative. I mean, I'm able to put it into words, no acronyms. It's all color-coded for the stats. It's easy to access, easy to read. So that's good. One new thing I put in there this year is everyone knows high school recruiting and transfer recruiting, but I put a bar graph in there for mock NFL draft picks because you want to see where all these future pros are. So I know it's early for a mock draft, but you can clearly see what schools have the most pros for next year or projected pros for next year. So, yeah, all kinds of stuff. Go check it out, picksixpreviews.com. We got samples up there, shipping out next day, so you get the hard copy right away. But now, thanks for plugging that. I appreciate it.
Brett, a couple more minutes here. And so just obviously you mentioned earlier that you are not as high on South Carolina with your data, with your research than some others. However, if you look back a few years since you've been doing this, are there any trends that you can identify for maybe what teams did or maybe how they were able to exceed expectations maybe? Would it be, having a quarterback like a Lenora Sellers who can kind of carry a team? Are there any trends you've identified when that happens?
Well, yeah, recruiting's huge. And now this transfer portal era, transfers are huge. One thing, talking to head coaches, talking to coordinators, it's player retention. It used to be they talk about how hard recruiting is. Now they say the first people they're recruiting are their own players. They need to go re-recruit the whole starting lineup every December just to try and keep them in the building. It's unbelievable. So I would say player retention is huge. I like looking at coaching stability and coordinator stability because some of these programs where they're hiring, firing, it just doesn't work out. You want to give it time to build. South Carolina has done that with Beamer. And then coordinator stability. Clayton White, one of the best in the country, so underrated. No one talks about him in discussions of defensive coordinators, but he continues to stack top 25 caliber defenses. Last year, no different. They were number 13 in the country for me on defense. So I think a lot of that. I mean, recruiting, transfers, player retention, and then coordinator coach stability. So that's how I'd answer that question. But so much goes into it. It's really a holistic approach to try and preview these teams anymore with all the player movement. But I think we accomplished that here in the magazine.
Got about 60 more seconds here before we have to run into our break. But in the past 20 years, the national champion has been ranked in the top 7 of the AP poll 18 out of 20 times. You see that being the case once again this year?
Yeah, I do. Now, it's a crowded field at the top, but those are your top brands. I mean, you have superpower recruiters with Bama, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State. You can even call Oregon a powerhouse recruiter. And then you've got a veteran team with Penn State that I think could really make a run, as well as, I hate to say here on Carolina radio, but Clemson. They fit the mold of a national champion. All those returning starters, all those future NFL draft picks. They're number 2 in the 2026 mock NFL draft, the number of prospects. So it's a pro-caliber team at Clemson. So, yeah, it's a mix of these super recruiters and then 2 veteran teams, Penn State and Clemson. So I think the champ is coming from that pack of teams.
Well, it should be a fun season ahead, Brett. We appreciate your hard work on the Preview Magazine and can't wait to see what unfolds here starting in a couple weeks.
Oh, absolutely. Best time of year, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Again, Brett Ciancia of Pick 6 Previews there joining us on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the hour. It's Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris on your Friday on the game. Welcome back in. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West Chris with you on your Friday here on the game. Reminder again, Monday, you can start listening to us in Charleston on WIWF 96.9 HD3. We'll be pretty much statewide, Columbia, Charleston, Myrtle Beach, and Florence as well. Of course, you can always take us with you wherever you go on the 107.5 The Game app and streaming on the Game TV radio on YouTube. Yes, Wes, you have a question.
I have a comment/question. How much do y'all think when like somebody like Brett goes like deep into the metrics with how they kind of pick teams and rank teams and stuff like that? He mentioned the high school ranking not being high enough for South Carolina. I mean, don't you got to factor in one of those that is count? If you're doing a 5-year window in today's college football world, one of those is including the just lost year.
Sure.
The recruiting class when Beamer took over and the high school was was terrible because you're in transition.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's a fair point.
I mean, I don't. But that was TJ Sanders. Most of those guys aren't on your team anymore anyway.
Sure. No, I think that's a fair point, and I guess you'd have to make a special circumstance when coaches are hired to maybe negate that first class if you want to make it even across the board. But yeah, that was and look, Beamer, and dealing with COVID as well, that was obviously not an easy job to try and pull that together at the last minute. And, it's obviously gotten way better in the years since. So, yeah, that I could see how that would obviously hurt that overall metric if you're looking at a 5-year window for what, Brett's kind of looking at with his pick six previews here.
Yeah, and I would think it would still be valid. Like, that affects your players that are on the roster.
Sure.
But it would be much more valid if it was, last year. Or really even 2 or 3 years ago when that would be like a forgotten sophomore or junior class. But we're really at the point, as many transfers have come in, as many high school classes as you have had since then, I don't really know if that's a massive factor. But I get it. People who go all in on South Carolina right now maybe are saying like, hey, they got Sellers, they got Dylan Stewart, I'm going to ride with those guys. People who are going to say, they're not in my top 25, they're going to say, yeah, they lost a lot of guys on defense. They lost Rocket Sanders. The more we hear, I just think this offense has a chance to be, like, pretty freaking good, is what I come back to. Now, is Russell Faison a part of it? Because I think if you add that kid into this thing, which there is still optimism.
So they say no outright.
There's some optimism in the building that he's going to get good news. And so I think if you plug him in the backfield along with the other running backs they have and Sellers and I would say development you have at wide receiver and the recruiting you've done at wide receiver, this offense, like that to me is the one thing the national guys, and I get it, you're going to be a little bit wait and see on those things because you're looking at every school, and you're not diving in on what's going on at practice at every single individual school. But that's the one thing, having McElroy on. I listened to Josh Pate's South Carolina preview. He said, I'm not sure about the wide receivers. I don't think wide receiver is a concern anymore. Now, do you still have to go back to what they lost? I think on the defensive line, that remains like top.
Yeah, that's way above receiver. Like the kicking game for me is above receiver. Sure. That doesn't mean, it's a little different because it's different than, he used the example Brett did of Clemson, right? And when we had Paul Strelo on earlier in the week, he mentioned this too. Like, you're getting your top guys back. For South Carolina, that's also the case, but it's not like you're returning 3 guys that all had incredible seasons, but that's where some nuance comes in. You're getting a third-year Nick Carber in terms of his development, who's also not running track. You're getting Mazio Bennett, who played in every game last year and did some good things, as a sophomore. right? Like and then you're adding in some freshmen who are going to push for playing time. Heck, maybe even, challenge for a starting job or two out there. Who knows, whether it's the beginning of the season or later. It's a little different than a team that, they returned 3 starters who all caught 40 balls. No, it's not that, but you just feel a lot better about that room in total. I think some of the other questions are of greater value.
Yeah, for receiver, it's lack of proven production compared to, again, like the trio they have at Clemson, which is probably the best 3 wide receiver group you have in the entire country, and their stats last year back that up. And it's not saying that Carolina's not capable of that. You just haven't seen that on full display of those guys yet, and we obviously hope that changes here in the couple weeks.
Yeah, and to the point I was making, too, about the high school recruiting class rank 5-year average, I don't know if he's using 24/7 Sports or on 3. I'd imagine it's one of them. The last 4 classes, 18th, 22nd, 16th, 25th. Then the very last of the 5-year that you're actually considering, 78th.
Yeah.
So
I'll drag it down a little bit.
So the average for the 5-year that you're going off of for South Carolina is 27th in the country.
Yeah.
Yet all 4 of the last 4 were ranked better than 27th. So you see what I'm saying?
Who from that class would still be here? That was, or Doty was 2020 or 2021? He was 2020, right?
2020 for Doty.
Yeah. 2021 class.
Yeah. Whoever it is, it's not many.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Transfer rank for South Carolina actually is way up there, too. And Lenora Sellers was not an incredibly highly ranked guy compared to what he is on the field at the most important position on the field. So, anyway.
That'll do it for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Halftime show, myself and Jack Veltri up next here on your Friday on the Game.
As we close out the show here, let's take a minute to tell you about our friends over at Integrated Media. Michael, Nathan, their crew do a great job. Any tech needs that you need at your home or even at your business, they can help you out. IntegratedMediaInc.com is where you can go to learn more about their services. They've been to Wes's home. They've been to mine. They can come out to yours, too. Make all your AV dreams come true. Everything from just mounting televisions for you, whether you have a TV, whether you need help with, hey,